Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. My name is Abhijit Bhaduri. I work as a talent advisor to organizations which are navigating the talent questions in the age of artificial intelligence. Today, I want to talk to you about a guest of mine who actually is working in a profession which, technically speaking, is the ultimate left brain profession, but he describes himself as a right brain person. This person, I asked him for evidence of that, and he talked about the fact that his marks in English all through school and college were higher than the marks that he got in math, and that, he is the chief financial officer for PepsiCo in India and Southeast Asia. And he, of course, plays the guitar and the keyboards, has a very popular YouTube channel, and plays two or three percussion instruments, as he says. And he's written this fabulous book called The Career Edge, which I loved. And I'm going to talk to him about The Career Edge.
Thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
What is this book about? And I'll give you my version of what I thought the book was about.
Look, I think this is something that I wish I could tell myself when I was, just starting off or somewhere in mid-career. So this book is, in a way, is giving back to folks who are either starting their journey or, at a fork in their career, trying to figure out the path ahead. And if I really look at it, I've tried to distill my 30 plus years of corporate experience, having worked in different countries, in different industries, in different cultures, and try to distill some common tenets. And unfortunately, the way I see our education system, particularly in India, it's really a process of filtration, filtering out, what we call the bright people. But real learning comes from experience. And so therefore, this book is not about theory. This book is a practitioner's guide. And I would love it to be a mentor in pages for people to really learn from and apply. And the book is basically in three parts. The first part is, and I'll talk about the fourth part. The first part is about how do you develop yourself. The second part is about how do you work with others. And the third part is how do you get things done. And when I went to the publisher, the first feedback I got is, you are a CFO, right? So how come you have written a book which doesn't have anything to do with finance? I didn't want to actually write the finance piece. But then, I got coerced into writing a section on finance. So yes, there is a fourth section, which is about finance. So that's my motivation for writing this book, Vijit.
Is how long does it take to write a book? How long did you take?
Look, I mean, this one has taken a while because it's been, over a period of time that I put together my thoughts and so got it structured. So it's taken about 5 years to write the book. And then, as you know, and you, nobody knows it better than you, the publishing industry, right? It takes maybe another year to get the book published. So the entire process has taken about 6 years.
And I was just reflecting on the fact that you have one of my also all-time favorite writers, Atul Gawande. His book, with the penguin logo, and also, of course, your book also has the penguin logo. So you are now rubbing shoulders with all the greats very clearly. So that's congratulations. I love the book for a couple of different reasons. One is, I look at the book as a conversation with somebody at different stages in your career. We come up with many different challenges. Careers are always our journey through life. And as we are doing that, you have questions. So one of the things that people keep saying is, you must learn continuously, which is also a phrase that you've used. And I coupled it with another nice term that you used, which is that having the beginner's mindset, and the term you used is Shoshin mindset. So that's a Japanese term which says that this is really the mind of the novice or the beginner, where you are open to ideas of learning. What is your process of learning today? And how has that changed when you were in the early stages of your career? What is different today?
Look, I think firstly, in terms of my process of learning, and I would start with saying that, I've learned a lot from failure. And that is something that I would actually urge all of us to acknowledge the fact that failure teaches us the hardest lessons, but probably the greatest learnings will come from failure. In my experience, decisions which have gone wrong, personal, professional, right, have taught me the greatest lessons that have remained with me. I have learned from adversity. I grew up in a lower middle class family, and I had to literally do tuitions to support myself. Having to go and study in a friend's house for my exams, etc., etc. I still recall me and my wife when we started our lives together. There wasn't enough money, and the choice was pay off the credit card or go out and eat in a good restaurant and things like that. So I learned a lot from adversity. I learned a lot from my parents. From my mother, I learned the importance of being good, and that's the first person I am. From my father, I had no silver spoon, so I learned the importance of doing well. So being good and doing well are kind of the foundational pillars of my personality. I learned a lot from boarding school. I went to a boarding school because we moved around so much, and there I studied with 500 boarders going for the ICSC exam the next day. Nobody in their cubby holes with their tutors. So I learned to be a team player. I learned discipline, right? Getting up in the morning at the same time. Uh, and these are life lessons which have stayed with me. I learned a lot from my wife. We've been married for 30 years. I'm an introvert. I would rather stay at home and watch a movie or read a book, and she would rather go and meet people. And I've learned the importance of networking, which today is so critical. And I've learned from the people that I have lived life with in professional life and in personal life, from leaders. So my learning has been experiential. And the difference between earlier and now, earlier there was knowledge was scarce, and therefore we used to look up at our elders and people with knowledge, and knowledge was also power, right? Today knowledge is a commodity, and therefore you are learning from 360. Every conversation with my 25-year-old son, who's a software engineer in San Francisco, is reverse mentoring. I mean, he's teaching me the latest in tech and how I can make my life easier and how I can work smarter rather than me telling him what to do. He's telling me how to invest, right? And things like that. So today, I think we have moved from answers to asking the right questions. Whereas earlier on, we had a lot of questions and no answers, and very few people to give the answers. So the way we learn has changed a lot.
When you look at this whole business of early stage mentoring, and you talked a lot about that. Um, how do you differentiate between a mentor and somebody who's a sponsor who advocates for you? And so they say that mentor is somebody who will give you advice, but is not the person who's actually recommending your name when it comes up for a promotion. A sponsor will do that. Do you believe that there is this difference, or do mentors also become sponsors?
I think mentors can also be sponsors, but I think the role I think the mentoring role probably is as important as the sponsor role, because at the end of the day the question is, are we setting ourselves up for success? Because a sponsor can get you can sponsor you into a role, but is he or she setting you up for success is the question that I would really ask, right? And therefore, uh, are you ready for that level of responsibility? So the mentoring process probably is the, I think both are important. Both are important because you sometimes you are ready, but you don't get the opportunity. You need a sponsor, but it's just not about getting there, and it's about setting you up for success. And that's where I think mentors play a very big role. I've been so fortunate to have mentors all through my professional careers, and they need not be in the same company. I mean, the mentorship relationship can actually transcend organizations, and it is something which builds over time. And I feel that today, um, it's very important for us and to help somebody else, right? In their, and one of the things that I wanted the book to do actually is to be is to feel like a mentor, is to feel really like a, if you have nobody to talk to and you have a question, this is something for you. It's something that I wished I had early on in my career, and today there is a very, very strong need for having mentorship. Of course, there is mentorship programs and things like that. One of the things that I see, particularly in an India context, is mentoring women. Okay, and while, to make sure that we are getting more women mentored, you also need senior women in senior positions. So I think men need to step up this bit about mentoring women into and making them ready for senior roles. It's a little bit of a chicken and egg question. Uh, Something that we probably talk about a lot but don't do enough on is this whole aspect of mentoring. And I think we need it mostly in the middle. Probably not so much when you are starting, but it's mostly in the middle that you need really direction, because it's less of functional, more of answering some dilemmas and questions through experiences of the mentor, which really helps.
You also actually talked a lot about company culture. How do you decode the culture? And I liked one example which you talked about, which is that you feel sometimes you could be a stranger in your own country, and your experience of going from the north or the east where you grew up, um, and then as you go to the southern part of the country, you kind of discover that you could as well have been in a completely different place because a lot of it is unfamiliar. I want to actually flip the question to a company context and say that, when people join a new company, you discover a different culture altogether. And it's important to decode that culture. Or you could be in the same company, go to a different branch. You've done both, right? I would love to have you discuss what are the ways in which, when you join a new company, completely different company, how do you decode the culture? What are the norms? Because the onboarding process in many cases just tells you, okay, this is how you need to log in your thing, this way you say this, your laptop. Beyond that, what are these unwritten rules? How do you discover unwritten rules when you join a new company?
I'll give you a couple of examples. Abhijit, my first stint outside India was in the PepsiCo Middle East Asia office in Dubai, and that was everything other than US and Europe. And I had a team which was somebody from Lebanon, somebody from Turkey, somebody from Guatemala, somebody from Colombia, somebody from China, somebody from UK, no Indians. And and I was used to, obviously, the way we manage in India, didn't work. I mean, for the first 3 4 months, I just couldn't get things done, and this obviously a tough job, and I felt like a victim, and then slowly I realized that the problem was that I was trying to get everybody to adapt to my style, and typically the way you are, in terms of giving instructions on the phone. So the Turkish girl told me, please don't keep calling me on the phone. Why don't you write it out on an email, and that works better for me. The Chinese person culturally was very quiet, and the Colombian kept talking. But it was up to me to understand the difference, and then allow the Chinese gentleman to express himself. So the problem was I was expecting others to change and adapt to me. And the solution lay in me adapting to my new environment and to the new team. And it was different stroke for different folks. And as soon as I realized that, the magic happened. I went to Vietnam, and and my team was pretty much all Vietnamese, and it was a joint venture with Suntory, Japanese companies, so some Japanese folks as well. And I love English, as I told you before. So I used to write these designer emails And lo and behold, nothing happened. And I felt so frustrated. Then one day, my boss, the Suntory CEO, came and told me, "What the hell are you doing? Nobody understands this, this Shakespeare and English that you're writing." And then, like the lightning thunderbolt, I realized what the hell was happening. And then I stopped. I forgot about the fancy language. I spoke slowly. I slowed myself down because I realized people were translating my English into either Vietnamese or Japanese, formulating the answers back in their language and then translating back. So it was actually demoralizing for them and demotivating them. So as soon as I stepped back and slowed down, spoke slowly, reinforced whether everything has been understood, the magic happened. Things really. So I think the lesson for me is, don't expect the environment to change. You are dealt with a hand, and when you move jobs, and I've moved so many jobs and so many locations, it's been 3-4 degrees of change everywhere. Certain things have always worked for me. Number one, having a 30, 60, 90-day plan. And in that 30, 60, 90-day plan, obviously one thing is to get to know the job, but the more important thing is to build what I call trust accounts with your 360 stakeholders. So I literally take a piece of paper on day one, write down all those people who I'm going to work with in this new environment. Now, you'll be lucky if you have a few who know you have some credibility with them, you have some trust with them. But the others, you have to keep depositing trust monies into those accounts and then keep evaluating where you are, because people are watching you for and judging you, right? Um, so building trust with stakeholders in the first 90 days becomes supremely important. I think more important than the job itself. That's been my experience.
You were talking about the language barrier. I remember that in one of the international assignments, I was working with somebody who was Spanish speaking and, with a very thick accented English. Often sort of really broken English kind of thing. Um, because the person had to actually work in a Spanish speaking country. So there was very little requirement to speak in English. It was only, for the meetings or the discussions or status updates where the person would be doing that. And I remember saying that, you know, uh, I would wish that you could try and sort of work on English because, here are 2, 3 ways in which you can improve your English. And this person turned back and said that, well, at least I speak a reasonable amount of English. You speak no Spanish. How about you trying to learn Spanish? And that really sets the whole equation. That for me was a big sort of aha moment because you realize in this mindset, we want the other person to learn our language. We make no effort to appreciate and integrate ourselves by learning that language. Even
Abhijit, yeah, this
yeah.
is amazing. I have and I quote this experience. We had this a driver in Vietnam, and sometimes my wife would get frustrated. He's not able to understand what I'm saying, and then I tried learning Vietnamese, and Vietnamese is a language where the script is English, but it's a phonetic language. So there are, one word could if you get the pronunciation wrong, it could mean something dramatically different. I tried and gave up after a few months. So if I can't understand, and if I try and not able to, learn Vietnamese, how do I expect somebody to? So we need to have that awareness. And the question in my mind is, what difference does the difference make? And honestly, and once you realize that the problem is really in your own head. Honestly, I've seen diverse teams really perform very well. I've seen different perspectives coming together, and sometimes you're just blinkered with people similar to you around you, and really a diverse environment just gets the best team performance out. All you need is to ask yourself that question. What difference does the difference make? And it honestly makes no difference.
What is the most common mistake people make in the early stages of their career?
I think
Specifically, let me target it to finance professionals because we don't very often, we don't get a chance to talk about finance as a function, at least on my podcast. I have not really had a chance to do that. And since I do have PepsiCo's CFO. So I'm going to take that chance and uh, ask you that question. What
Look, I mean,
some of the
yeah,
mistakes?
I think one, and I've made the same mistake, and it was of course a different era 30 years back. But I think when we start off, we are all looking for that, that coveted job, and really the value added work. And so when it comes to finance, people want merchant banking, people want financial services, right? And they want to be doing deals, and they want to be in M&A, and they want to be in consulting, and then they want to be in corporate finance. Nobody wants to do the grunt work of factory finance, of commercial finance, of the grassroots transaction processing, process role, control roles, right? Uh, Tax treasury roles. Everybody wants to do the cockpit of the plane, and looking out. And I think there's where the fallacy lies. Because in life, the lesson is that when if you have to get to a CFO, you must have solid foundations, and the foundations have to be built early on. No building can be constructed without the foundation being built first. So to build your
Mm,
foundations, you have to do the hard yards. And so when I started, fortunately, while I coveted those roles, I didn't get those. So I started in the basement, in the foundation, right, 3 layers below the surface. So I did a factory stint, I did a commercial stint, and then it was much later that I got to a corporate office. And thank God I didn't get to the corporate office first; it would have spoiled me completely. So you have to really learn the ropes before you get to a senior position. So I would urge people who are starting off right now, and now it's much more easy because you are able to get so much of experience in a short time, to focus on the learning, and do not jump to those fancy designations and the coveted functions which you think in your mind are the coveted functions, right? So if you're going to work in a brand innovation make sell deliver company, I worked in most of my life in that kind of a value chain. Then you must really learn the basics of how that value chain works, and spend time in each one of those. The other thing is, people want to move fast, and nowadays I see this penchant of, okay, 12 months, 18 months, I want to move very very quickly. If I'm stuck in the same role after 18 months, I'm already feeling left behind and things like that. Honestly, I feel in any role you need 12 months to firstly learn, and it's the next 12 months that you really add value and give back to the company. So if you look at the company's perspective, right, you're really not contributing unless you spent a decent amount of time in a role. Also, from a learning point of view, learning is not complete if you spend a decent amount of time. So you are working on the foundation, but you're not. It's not a solid foundation, right? So start with the foundation, get your experience at the basement level, and build a solid and do a good job of that, and spend sufficient time so that in a 35-40 year career things even out, right? So
yeah.
I've seen these people who are always kind of comparing themselves. There's always going to be somebody behind you, somebody ahead of you. If you keep comparing with somebody else, you're running somebody else's race, you'll be a very unhappy, disbalanced
Yeah.
person.
Recent piece on my LinkedIn newsletter about what's the right time to switch your career. Actually, was triggered by a conversation I'd had with a mentor earlier, when I said that, I've learned whatever I had to in this role, and I'm ready to take a new role or move to another company. And this person actually said something pretty interesting. Um, was saying that, imagine that you go to a shop to buy something, you want to buy a phone, and you pay this shop a certain amount of money. And let's say you pay that money, and the person says, okay, you can go. What's your first thing? That what you didn't give me the phone. So when you take up a new job, you are actually the one who is receiving the phone first, and you pay the money later
Yeah,
when you start investing in that
yeah.
role. So that metaphor really stuck with me. That yeah, I mean, this is a thing. When you join a company, you're actually trying to figure out everything. So you actually can give back only once you spend a certain amount of time. But we are coming towards the end of the conversation. But I would love to have one of those rapid fire things with you and just say, one way in which you describe this book, The Career Edge.
I think it's a mentor. It's a mentor in a book form, and that's one word. And so far, the feedback that I've got from people who've read the book, and uh, they are finding it relatable. They're finding it genuine and authentic, and they're finding it useful. So you can learn something and immediately apply it in.
And one way in which you look at the next part of your career, if you look at the future, what will AI change in a finance function?
AI is going to you typically the finance people are the ones turning on the lights, turning off the lights. Super busy all the time. They're working very, very hard, and I really feel for that. I mean, there was a time when we used to kind of do the closing of the books, staying overnight in the plants and in the offices. Now, those days are over. But what AI is going to help the finance function do is help us from moving from being busy to being available. And if I look at the business, they don't care about busy. They don't care how hard you're working and how busy you are, and how long you're spending in office. They want you to be available. And I think finance is the true representative of the shareholder, because we see everything end to end, and we have that shareholder value creation mindset. So more we make ourselves available, the more impact we'll make on the business, and more delighted the customers will be. AI is going to help us move away from the kitchen to where the real action is.
And thank you very much, Kaushik. All the very best for your career now as a writer as well. I know you've written fiction as well in the past. So you're an interesting combination of a CFO who writes about fiction and, a career mentor kind of a book. All the very best. And it was such a delight talking to you. Thank you so much for being with us and look forward to staying in touch again. Thank you.